Welcome to Called to Build, the podcast for faith-driven entrepreneurs and kingdom leaders who are ready to build what outlasts them. Hosted by Carl Willis, entrepreneur, pastor, and marketplace missionary. Each episode delivers biblical wisdom, insight, real-world strategy, and bold encouragement to help you lead with purpose, steward with wisdom, and multiply your impact. Because faith and business weren't meant to compete, they were meant to collide. Now, let's step into today's episode. What if the very areas you've been neglecting are the ones God intended to multiply your impact through? That question hit me like a freight train during my sabbatical. I had built businesses, led churches, raised a family, and taught leadership across continents. But I realized I hadn't always stewarded my life holistically. I had treated time, talents, and health like disconnected parts of a machine rather than sacred pieces of a divine ecosystem. As Christian entrepreneurs, our stewardship goes far beyond the financial. God has entrusted us with 4 critical areas: our time, our talents, our temple, our body and mind, and our relationships. How we manage these is a direct reflection of our kingdom citizenship. Let's explore how to steward your entire life for eternal impact. This episode is built around what I call the 4T framework of kingdom stewardship. Time. Align your schedule with your calling. Talents. Activate and multiply your God-given gifts. Temple. Care for your body as your kingdom instrument. Tribe. Invest intentionally in your relationships. When all 4 areas are aligned under Christ's lordship, your life becomes a vessel of lasting influence and legacy. Biblical time management, stewarding God's appointed seasons. For a comprehensive guide on managing time as a Christian entrepreneur, consider reading Time Management Secrets for Christian Entrepreneurs. This article offers practical strategies to align your daily schedule with God's calling, emphasizing intentionality and balance in your professional and personal life. Biblical example: Nehemiah stewarded his time and influence with precision. He waited on God's timing, prayed strategically, and when the moment came, acted with bold clarity to rebuild Jerusalem's walls. Nehemiah 2. His story is a model of patient preparation and decisive action. Time is the one resource you can't earn back. Ephesians 5:15-17 exhorts us to make the most of every opportunity. That begins with viewing your calendar as sacred ground. Use time blocks for what matters most: prayer, strategy, family, and recovery. The Sabbath isn't just a suggestion, it's God's design for rhythm. I learned this deeply after stepping down from Restoration Church. Suddenly, I wasn't on anyone's clock but God's, and that forced me to ask what matters most in this season. A few years ago, a mentor introduced me to the concept of time blocking by priority rather than by task. Up until then, I had approached my schedule like most entrepreneurs, checking boxes, responding to urgency, juggling a never-ending to-do list. But when I shifted to structuring my days around my God-ordained priorities, everything changed. I stopped being busy and started being fruitful. Productivity increased, but more importantly, so did peace. These days, I'm presented with new opportunities on a near-daily basis: speaking engagements, partnerships, business ventures, even ministry offers. Without a clear sense of God's current assignment for me and the mission He's entrusted me to fulfill, I could easily get distracted by what looks good, but isn't God. Stewarding time means stewarding assignment. It means learning the power of a holy no. Reflection. Questions. What are the top 3 priorities God is calling you to focus on right now? Where are you spending time that doesn't align with your current assignment? What does honoring Sabbath rest look like for you in this season? 2. Kingdom talents, multiplying what God has entrusted to you. To delve deeper into the biblical perspective on stewarding your talents, explore 7 lessons. The parable of the talents taught me about biblical stewardship. This article unpacks the parable of the talents, highlighting key lessons on responsibility, growth, and faithfulness in using God-given abilities. Biblical example: Bezalel and Oholiab, Exodus 31, were gifted artisans, filled with the Spirit of God, entrusted with the design of the tabernacle. Their craftsmanship wasn't just technical skill, it was holy stewardship. Their work built a dwelling place for God among His people, reminding us that creative and practical talents matter to the kingdom. Entrepreneurship is one of the greatest multipliers of God-given talents. When I launched Simplicity Marketing LLC in 2011, it wasn't just a business, it was a stewardship assignment. God gave me the ability to communicate, strategize, and teach. Stewardship meant turning those into systems that blessed others. I met Wilfred at the Total Transformation Summit in Kitale, Kenya. He was entrepreneurial at heart, full of ideas, but hadn't yet stepped into action. During our sessions together, he began to refine an idea that had been quietly sitting in the background of his mind: an environmentally friendly alternative to using firewood for industrial heating. As he gained clarity, he found the confidence to move forward. That idea became a real business, one that not only addressed environmental concerns, but also created jobs in his community. But Wilfred didn't stop there. He leveraged his growing influence to begin mentoring local youth, teaching life skills, and sharing the message of Christ. It's a powerful reminder. When we steward our talents and take faithful steps, God multiplies them in ways we could never orchestrate on our own. Not all talents start out being used the right way either. When I left police work in 1998, I thought that chapter was closed. But in my missionary travels to East Africa, India, and Pakistan, I found those old instincts resurfacing: situational awareness, verbal de-escalation, body language reading. They proved invaluable in moments where tension ran high. Then in 2019, stepping into the executive pastor role, I saw the need for stronger church security. I leaned into my past and helped develop our safety team and operational procedures. God didn't waste any of it. He simply waited until the timing was right to redeploy it. Reflection. Questions. Which talents in your life have been underutilized or buried? Where has God repurposed an old skill for a new assignment? Who are you mentoring or pouring into as part of your stewardship? 3. Temple care, honoring your body as a Christian entrepreneur. For insights into honoring God through healthy living, read 10 Principles for Health, Honoring God Through Healthy Living. This piece discusses practical ways to view health as a form of worship and stewardship, encouraging intentional choices that reflect our awareness of divine responsibility. Biblical example: Daniel 1, honored his body and convictions even when it set him apart in Babylon. His disciplined choices around food and self-care became a testimony to God's favor and elevated him in influence. His life proves that honoring your temple can lead to kingdom promotion. In 2023, I hit a wall and didn't see it coming. That year was one of the most demanding I've ever faced. Our company was navigating the complexities of acquiring agent branding and marketing while simultaneously managing the fallout of a major Facebook data breach that directly impacted many of our clients. In ministry, I was serving as the executive pastor during a challenging season for our lead pastor, and much of the weight of leadership fell squarely on my shoulders. Overlay all that with 4 international ministry trips, a demanding travel schedule for business, nearly 68,000 miles in the air, and it was only a matter of time before something gave. On my last overseas trip, a 3-week assignment in Kenya and Pakistan, I contracted a severe respiratory infection. Despite a full course of antibiotics and steroids, I never fully recovered. When I returned to the U.S., I started experiencing chest pains and shortness of breath. A failed stress test led to a heart catheterization. The cardiologist expected to find a blockage. Instead, my arteries were completely clear. That should have been good news until the blood work came back. I had no cortisol in my body. None. We retested. Still nothing. My stress response system was completely shot. My body had been waving red flags, and I'd been ignoring every one of them. Today, the scar on my right wrist, where the catheter was inserted, is more than a medical mark. It's my personal check engine light, a daily reminder that my limits are real, and stewardship includes honoring those limits. That wake-up call prompted a complete recalibration in 2024. I cut back my travel schedule. I enrolled in a medically supervised weight loss program. I began walking 1.5 miles every day. I hired a coach. I took a sabbatical. I returned to journaling and carved out moments of intentional silence beyond prayer and study, just to be still, and slowly clarity and energy returned. Reflection. Questions. What physical or emotional warning signs have you been ignoring? How are you building intentional margin into your life? What one health habit could you begin or restore this week to steward your temple? 4. Tribe stewardship, building relationships that reflect God's heart. To understand the importance of stewarding relationships, consider entrusted stewarding relationships well. This article emphasizes the role of relationships in our spiritual journey and offers guidance on nurturing connections that reflect God's love and purpose. Biblical example: Paul and Timothy, Philippians 2:19-22, show the power of spiritual fathering and relational investment. Paul didn't just train Timothy in doctrine, he walked closely with him, affirmed his calling, and passed the baton. Our influence often flows through the lives we choose to invest in deeply. One of the most personal acts of stewardship I've ever walked through involved my mother. She has battled mental health issues for most of her life, which created emotional distance between us through the years. As a son, it was hard. As a leader, it was complicated. And for her, it came with a deep burden of shame that she carried for decades. During my sabbatical in 2024, the Lord impressed on me to write her a letter, not to confront the past, but to release her from it. I told her that she is loved, that she has nothing to be ashamed of, that she did her best, and that God had been faithful through it all. That simple letter opened the door to healing. We now attend church together and have lunch weekly. Sometimes the deepest breakthroughs don't come through power, they come through grace. Relationship stewardship is deeply intentional. For me, it begins in prayer. I keep a prayer board in my office, not just for intercession, but to stay attuned to the real needs in the lives of those around me. I write handwritten letters to my children at key moments in their lives, something I plan to continue with my grandchildren. And each month I take time to connect one-on-one with my employees, just to hear their heart. Sometimes what they need most isn't strategy, it's to be seen. Reflection? Questions? Who in your life needs a word of grace or encouragement? Are your key relationships thriving, strained, or neglected? What intentional practices could help you invest more deeply in the people God has entrusted to you? 5. Holistic stewardship for Christian business leaders. There's no divide between spiritual and strategic. Every part of your life belongs to God. Holistic stewardship means living an integrated life where each T of the 4T framework, time, talents, temple, and tribe, is in alignment with God's will. Ask yourself, how am I spending my time? Where are my talents lying dormant? What is my body telling me? Which relationships need more care? When you bring every area under the lordship of Christ, You don't just operate more efficiently, you live more purposefully. Conclusion: Christian entrepreneurship that reflects the kingdom. God never asked you to compartmentalize your calling. He asked you to steward your life. When you manage time, talents, health, and relationships with intention, you become a living demonstration of the gospel, not just in word, but in witness.
Thanks for tuning in to Called to Build. If this episode challenged or encouraged you, take a moment to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with another faith-driven leader who's ready to rise. To go deeper, visit carlwillis.com for tools, training, and resources that will help you lead with purpose, steward with wisdom, and build what outlasts you. Remember, you weren't called to compete, you were called to build. Until next time, keep building what matters.